Welcome back to BioBiz Buzz. This is the podcast where we dive deep into the business of the innovation in life sciences. I'm your host, Mike Ward, and today we're tackling a question that keeps biotech founders up at night. How do you access world-class R&D expertise without actually having to build it all from scratch? For the past decade, the answer has basically been you can't. Early-stage biotechs have had to choose between burning through capital, building internal capabilities, or partnering with Big Pharma on terms that often favor the larger player. But that script is starting to flip. Joining us today is Tom Hopkins, VP and Head of Lilly ExploR&D, a man who spent over 15 years watching drug development from inside some of the most innovative companies on the planet. So Tom, welcome to BioBiz Buzz.
Thanks, Mike. I'm excited to talk about what Lilly is building with you here today.
So before we actually get into the ExploR&D side, could you give our listeners a sort of a quick snapshot of your background? Because it's a fascinating journey, GSK, Lilly, and some pretty cutting edge programs along the way.
Thanks, Mike. You're taking me back, but honestly, I'd go back even further, really, to three moments that explain why I'm so passionate about what we're building today. Before pharma, I spent nearly a decade in hospital medicine, and I was laser focused on becoming a clinical academic. And that was the plan until three experiences really changed my path. The first was in Professor Sir Steve Bloom's lab at Imperial. And as a junior, I got to work with his team. They were doing brilliant translational research, and he was super entrepreneurial. And Steve's back in the headlines with the Metsera acquisition at the moment. But even then, you could see how academic science could move much faster when you thought like an entrepreneur. The second was when I was doing my Wellcome PhD at the Hammersmith, and I was working at the phase 1 oncology unit. So that's where cancer drugs get tested in patients for the first time. And we were working with big pharma teams, and they were super professional, super capable. But we also had these small entrepreneurial biotech teams. And some of these founders had literally remortgaged their homes to keep the clinical trials running. And that urgency, the all-in commitment, that was really intoxicating. And third, I was training as a medical oncologist, an experience I can't shake to this day, and that really drives me. I still go back to thinking about this young father who was on my ward. He had two small kids. He had blood cancer. He was fighting like hell for months, and sadly, he didn't make it. And watching his family and the impact that had, that never leaves you. And it lit a fire in me to think bigger, to want to move faster and ask, how do we get more shots on goal more quickly for families like this? And those three things, the entrepreneurial science, the drive of biotech founders, and the urgency of the patients who can't wait. That's really the DNA of everything I've done since. That's what brought me to pharma. And ultimately helping biotech teams accelerate their science to patients is what ExploR&D is built to solve.
Yeah, I guess that's actually what is therefore bringing us here today. I mean, Lilly hasn't, as far as I can see, hasn't just been thinking about internal innovation. It's been thinking about enabling innovation across the entire ecosystem. Is this sort of a different mindset from what other big pharmas have been doing?
Yeah, Lilly is really thinking differently about external innovation and really turning the question around. We're asking not just what the ecosystem can do for us, but what we can do for the ecosystem. And that's why we created Lilly Catalyze 360, which is this comprehensive approach to enabling early stage biotechs. So we're a sister organization to Lilly's corporate business development organization. They're leading licensing, M&A. But with Catalyze 360, we're focused on really early stage science, where the risks are at their highest, and providing a suite of capabilities that make it easier for that science to not just survive, but to thrive. So we're providing access to capital, strategic investment via Lilly Ventures. We've got state-of-the-art lab space and community creation with Lilly Gateway Labs. We've got our latest offering, which is AI-enabled drug discovery capabilities via Lilly TuneLab, which I think we'll talk about probably later. And finally, my own organization, Lilly ExploR&D, and we're a team of expert drug discoverers and developers dedicated to working with these biotech teams and putting Lilly's expertise, capabilities, and connectivity behind their mission to make it easier for them to get their programs into the clinic. And maybe to give a real world example of this, if you don't mind, because I think it helps to bring this to life. And ExploR&D has only been around for just over 3 years. And one of the earliest teams that we worked with, incredibly nice. They're first-time founders, straight out of a postdoc, great science, but no development experience at all between the entire team. And at ExploR&D, every day we're taking Lilly's industry-leading expertise in creating medicines and putting that at the service of biotechs around the world. And we start with the end goal in mind. From the very beginning, we have our eyes on the key risks that can derail a program downstream. And these early decisions in the lab translate to huge medical and business consequences. So we have the know-how and resources to get it right from the start. In this case, we worked with a team to create a fantastic molecule that we licensed to them. I'm super excited to say that they found great financial backers, and now we're actually working with them to manufacture the molecule and actually get it into IND-enabling studies. So it's just a really tangible example about how this engagement early on can really translate to acceleration and enhance overall success as well.
Right. Let's sort of set the stage. You just described there sort of your biotech founders, promising early stage programs, sort of really interesting science. So what are the sort of the obstacles that, for example, they and other biotech entrepreneurs are likely to face that Lilly is going to be able to help them get through?
Sure. I mean, I think first we have to acknowledge it's a really tough time for the ecosystem at the moment. The capital markets highly constrained at a time when costs by many measures have increased fourfold since the turn of the century. And we're in an environment where complexity is increasing every day. And because there is limited capital, competition has gone through the roof. So the already tough biotech entrepreneurial journey has got a lot harder. And to succeed in this field, you need data and you need insights. And as a small company, that's super hard to get. We work with super experienced serial entrepreneurs, founded multiple successful companies. But even then, as you kind of cycle back to your next opportunity, it could have been 5 years since your last clinical stage program. And will what worked then work now with the pace of change that's going on around us? Probably not, to be honest. And then, a lot of biotechs rely on consultants for their answers. Certainly that's a capital efficient way to get insights rather than hiring a big team. But how long is it since that consultant has been a true operator? I've got an example that immediately comes to mind. Not going to name names, of course, here, but we were working with a CEO of a company heading towards the clinic doing GMP manufacturing. And they had a CMC consultant who was telling them that a particular body of work, which was going to cost $1 million, was absolutely essential to a successful IND. And we knew it wasn't, and we had the data to prove it because we'd run those programs. So it's really getting that critical information that I think is at the heart of what we do. And I like to describe my organization as like a mitochondria within the cell that is in Lilly. With this fully functional organelle, over 80 people, over 10 functions, we can function independently, essentially like a biotech in miniature. But like a mitochondria, we've got this semi-permeable membrane back to the broader Lilly organization. And we've got over 10,000 people working in R&D. And that gives us access to incredible insights that span therapeutic areas, indications, modalities, functions, geographies. And that's the kind of expertise that we're giving to biotech. And the second big area when it comes to navigating costs and complexity is finding the right partners to do the work that needs to get done, whether that's a CDMO to make your molecule, a CRO to run your toxicology studies or your clinical trial. And again, finding the right partner is super tough. But we've got a vendor network that's over 500 strong. And what we do is help biotechs find the right partners, leveraging that connectivity that we have, even to the extent, in some cases, we've got these master agreements that we pass through to the biotech companies. So it's not just getting the insights on who's going to be a trusted partner. We're also taking time off timelines, quite significant time, at least a quarter, by making this available.
Right. That's all very, very interesting. And one of the things that you mentioned was around data. And these days, there's an awful lot of chat around AI and ML and how it's going to sort of enable or accelerate innovation. is certainly a sort of a large part of the sort of the early stage conversation. From where you're seeing, what's the reality of AI access for early stage biotech right now? And how does, for example, Catalyst 360, how does that fit into that?
No, I mean, it's a great question. I mean, going back to that point about complexity, I don't think the pace of technological change has ever been as fast as it is right now, with the potential to disrupt parts or even the entire sector. And it's hard for any of us to stay on top of these developments. But as a biotech CEO, C-suite member, when you're laser focused on keeping your company alive, it's next to impossible. And we talk to a lot of biotechs, and outside those that specialize in AI platforms, the most frequent answer we get when we're asking them what AI tools are you using is nothing, because the hurdle is so great. That there are many startups that make so many promises, but it's hard to know what's real. And even once you've found the right partner, then implementation, management of data and privacy can feel really complicated. So that's where we're thinking, again, through the Catalyze 360 model, what do we have that could actually make this easier for biotech? And that's where Lilly TuneLab comes in.
I know it's not your responsibility, but could you just sort of tell us a little bit about TuneLab?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's still part of that same thesis about how can we help the external innovation ecosystem. Within Lilly, we've been working for decades to develop these AI models that we use day in, day out for our discovery programs. There's over $1 billion worth of R&D that's gone into training these models. And now through Lilly TuneLab, we're making these available to the biotech community through a process that's called federated learning. And then whilst I'm not an expert, I mean, briefly, federated learning is a way for lots of different users to benefit from an AI model, but also in the process of working with it to help train it and make it better, but without sharing their proprietary data. So each user gets to kind of use the model locally, and then the model sends back only the updates, not the data itself. So ultimately, you get something that's increasingly sophisticated and powerful that everyone gets to benefit from.
Yeah, I suppose that's a critical point to emphasize. So, through federated learning, they're not sharing their proprietary data with Lilly so they can keep their competitive advantage. I guess they're getting the benefit of the intelligence that's actually being distilled in the models that you've been creating.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So let's zoom out a bit and talk about ExploR&D's broader operating model. TuneLab is just one piece, but there's a larger ecosystem that you're building. So could you just walk through, for example, all those components of Catalyze 360?
Of course, yes. So we're really looking to engage early when the risks are at their highest, and to do so at a scale that's really never been attempted before in our industry. And we've got 4 ways of providing support to companies. Obviously, in the capital constrained market, everyone's mind goes to capital, and we have Lilly Ventures for that, where we're writing checks for early stage companies, but also investing in funds as well to give us unprecedented access and connectivity to the ecosystem. With Lilly Gateway Labs, we're standing up these physical sites around the world, providing scientific engagement and really creating a community, really interweaving these companies within the scientists and technical experts of Lilly to help them achieve their goals. Most recently, we've opened 2 sites in China, for example. We just talked about TuneLab, which is democratizing access to these complex AI models. And then my own organization, which in many ways has the broadest thesis, we really engage from the very earliest stages of company creation, at the Perry spin-out stage, all the way through to super experienced, mature post-IPO companies to provide integrated R&D expertise and capabilities spanning from discovery stage all the way through to the completion of clinical proof of concept.
So could you sort of give us a sense of what that interaction, particularly with ExploR&D, actually looks like, along with, I guess, potential timelines that would be associated with the evolution of the relationship?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think glad you brought up timelines because we bring pharma quality expertise, but the urgency back to kind of the original story about my passion of a biotech. So we operate with biotech speed, and we have a highly flexible model that ranges from fee for service all the way through to various different shared risk models and a scope of work that really is designed to meet biotechs where they are and can start with something as small as some strategic consulting. The biotech has a particular question that they want some help thinking through. They've seen a data package and they want to get some other eyes on it, all the way through to far more substantial bodies of work, which could be designing and setting up and executing an entire phase 2A clinical trial, for example, as we did in collaboration with several biotechs.
Yeah, it sounds, refreshingly pragmatic. But let's talk about the sort of the economics. So for a biotech that's bootstrapped or has done a Series A, how does ExploR&D pricing work? Is this really accessible to truly early stage companies?
Yeah, but the core mission again is to help science move forward. So we don't want costs to be a barrier to anyone. Our mantra is that we meet biotechs where they are. So we try and find a scope of work and a deal structure that is going to work for that company and the timeline that's going to work. I mean, you talked about timelines before. We've got agreements in place in as little as 2 weeks. We've tried to strip this down to the most simple process. We had a company, for example, that needed to get an urgent response back to the FDA. So we worked like lightning there and actually started to work at risk to help them out to make sure that they could meet their timelines. All the way through to, companies, again, it's a capital constrained environment where we are super excited about the science. We do have various different shared risk tools that we can use to enable a company. And the molecule creation piece is one that I am personally super excited about because there we're creating a pharma grade clinical candidate for biotechs and we're licensing them that candidate, but we're not asking for any money up front. We're taking, very limited kind of back-end economics that are not in any way going to interfere with their fundraising ability. And that really gives them the opportunity to extend their runway and use their capital for something else, taking that asset forward into manufacturing and IND enabling studies, for example.
Right. So let me make sure I've got this right. So essentially, you're not trying to sort of maximize the revenue from each of these deals. I guess the focus is on a win rate across a portfolio that you must have.
When we started this model, Dan Skrovansky, Lilly's Chief Scientific Officer, used a phrase which really resonates for me, which is that it's a rising tide that lifts all boats. We think that by putting this resource out into the ecosystem, it's going to be great for funders and founders because we think that we're going to make it faster, easier, cheaper to move programs forward. By extension, that's going to be great for Lilly because that means more scientific substrate, more strong relationships with the ecosystem that hopefully will lead to pipeline impacting deals. But most importantly, it's going to be super beneficial for patients that are waiting for these breakthrough therapies because we're going to be increasing that flow through of science into the clinic.
Right. I'm sorry, you're thinking about these interactions, and I can sort of see that some biotech founders are going to go, so exactly how does that work? I mean, you mentioned you've got embedded scientists at Gateway Labs and you've got close collaboration through ExploR&D. So how do you guys manage the tension between being a collaborative partner and actually protecting your own intellectual property?
So, I mean, I love when we're having conversations with biotechs and really the core question we ask is, what are you struggling with right now and what can we help with? And the deal sounds so good that often we get the question, there must be a catch to what we're doing. And there really isn't. We're out there to make their lives easier, to help advance their programs. And we're super intentional about how we do that because we want everyone to feel comfortable in the collaboration. My organization can function fully independently from the rest of the organization, and we take protecting partner data extremely seriously. And ultimately, the final decision makers are the biotech team that come to us. And we are just there to help facilitate and to give them the information and insights to make the best possible decision. But again, we have that semi-permeable membrane. So if they do want to tap into the expertise more broadly within the organization, then we can do that seamlessly. And we try and tailor that access to what they need and what they feel comfortable with.
No. Now, one of the things that these days, at the industry conferences, we hear pharma companies saying we're agnostic in the sort of the white space areas that they're looking at. So I just wondered, is there a sort of a sweet spot for you guys?
But that's the beauty of this model, really, Mike, that we, by design, want to go broad. We want to go where the science is at the earliest and riskiest. And that means definitely playing outside of Lilly's current therapeutic area focus as well as within it. We're thinking about the pipeline of today, but also the pipeline of tomorrow. And we've obviously got fantastic expertise in certain modalities and certain indications. But there are certain core tenets of drug development that apply across all of these areas. So we're super transparent in where we think that we are, we have this unique competitive edge, but we also can provide huge value in areas where Lilly isn't currently focused.
Right. I mean, you sort of hinted at some sort of, examples, but have you got a few other examples of partnerships that have really validated this model that you're pursuing that you can talk about?
Yeah, well, we do like to try and protect our partners' confidentiality as well. I mean, it's something that's in the public domain, which I think speaks to the collaborative cross-pillar nature of how we work with biotechs. A company like In Vitro, where my own organization has signed several collaborations with them in the molecule creation and technology licensing space, including a large molecule discovery campaign as an example. And they're also collaborating with TuneLab to help develop new AI models. So we have an increasing number of companies that are super users of the Catalyze 360 ecosystem because they see just so much value in what we can do for them.
Right. I mean, no, that's an interesting example. Let's pivot to something more forward-looking. What are the trends that you're seeing that you think are going to sort of shape biotech innovation over the sort of the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years?
Well, as you said, it is a super tough time for the ecosystem at present, but I'm definitely super excited about the potential for AI, not just in discovery, where I think there's a lot of focus at the moment, but also in development, which is an area which actually covers the lion's share of costs of drug R&D, but where there are increasing numbers of use cases that we see with the potential to dramatically decrease costs, timelines, and enhance productivity. And that's something that we're investing in within our own organization to give biotechs the tools to make that development transition as efficient as possible.
Yeah, I guess that last point is key. I mean, you're just optimizing, I guess, Lilly's competitive advantage, but as you sort of pointed out earlier, you're actually genuinely trying to sort of raise the tide for everyone else. Let's get tactical now for our audience of biotech founders, investors, or actually even life science professionals. What should they actually do with the information that we've been discussing today?
Yeah, I would encourage them to reach out and start the conversation. Create their own website, www.explorand.com, and there's a contact us page. We've got an expanding team just dedicated to this external partnering process to have the conversations with companies. Again, that conversation starts with, what problem are you facing right now? And let's see if we've got something in the suite of capabilities and expertise that we have that can help address that challenge.
Yeah. And is it sort of just focused on the biotech founders, or are there other stakeholders that actually you would also like to engage with?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, particularly with our connectivity through Lilly Ventures, we're speaking with funds all the time. So it's great when we have conversation with VC teams about their portfolio companies, and that can often catalyze a number of conversations where we think that we could help unlock some speed or capital efficiency.
Right. One more question just before we sort of wrap up. What's the thing that you're most excited about right now? What keeps you up at night in a good way?
Maybe either what keeps me up at night or what gets me jumping out of bed in the morning. Yeah. The thing that gives me energy, Mike, it's a special kind of chemistry. When you see a biotech team in conversation with my organization, you've got their energy, their focus, their science, but also the challenges they face. And then my team, who are super experienced and just so passionate about helping move things forward. There's a magic, there's a sparkle in the air when that conversation happens that, is like a drug, really. You see where 1+1 is much, much greater than 2. And I think that's the reason that our model is expanding so quickly. It's just over 3 years that we've been doing this. Our growth curve looks exponential. We've worked with over 60 biotechs, over 90 collaborations. It's fantastically exciting to see what we're already doing and to look ahead and see what this model could do as we continue to scale it.
Right. I mean, I think that's a great place to land. Tom, thanks so much for taking the time to walk us through all this. I think there's a lot here for our listeners to chew on. And whether you're a founder thinking about your next R&D hire, or an investor evaluating deal flow, or just someone who's actually just tracking how the pharma industry is evolving, I think this will be a great use. So thanks for taking the time, Tom, to speak to me today.
Thanks, Mike. Great conversation.
So that's Tom Hopkins, VP Head of Lilly ExploR&D, unpacking how Lilly is reimagining partnerships with early stage biotechs and democratizing access to world-class R&D capabilities. If you found this conversation valuable, I'd encourage you to check out the show notes. We'll sort of link information about Catalyze 360, TuneLab, Lilly Gateway Labs, ExploR&D's offerings, etc. For our investors, biotech founders, this episode presents a valuable opportunity to stress test your current partnership strategy. Are you utilizing available resources to mitigate risk in your programs? Are you thinking creatively about how to access expertise without building everything in-house? Those are the questions that separate companies that thrive from companies that struggle. Until next time, I'm Mike Ward, reminding you that in biotech, the best partnerships are the ones that maximize one player's advantage. They're the ones that accelerate breakthrough science. So thanks for listening.